Got it. Right, on we go. So yes, this is the final Mishnah of the Masechta. Tough and a half. So, and there's a lot of juice in this. Some of this we have looked at before. I think we did a couple of years ago when we actually started Rosh Hashanah. I think it was near Rosh Hashanah time. So some of this we looked at, but we didn't look at it in, well, a complete picture, which hopefully we can over the time. So let's have a look at this Mishnah. It's split up into various pieces. And let's have a look. Lamed Gimel Amud Beis. We may turn to Lamed Al. Let's see. Okay, let's have a look. Seder Tekiyos. The order of the Tekiyos, we've spoken a lot about blowing the shofar. Well, what is this blowing the shofar? And this Mishnah actually is where the if you like, the guts of the blowing, all the halachas surrounding the piece here. Of course, we've seen loads of halachas until now. We've spoken about the actual shofar itself, but what about the blowing? And it's all in this piece of Gemara and all the commentaries on it. So let's have a look. So the order of the Tekiyos. Oh, I love this. The next four words, palindrome. You don't often see a four-worded palindrome. And as Peter will know, as my Hebrew name is Natan David, two palindromes. I'm very keen on palindromes. So if you ever talk about any, please, we've spoken about this before. Please send me them. Spent a lot of time.
I mean, it's not much of a palindrome since they're all the same word.
Sholosh, well, you got the shell.
You got the shell, yeah, but I mean,
yeah, but it actually, well, if you go, no, I don't mean each word in it. Taking four at once.
Yeah. Yes.
Four at once, and then you go back from the other end, and you're still the same. Sholosh, shell, sholosh, sholosh. Yeah. So yeah, I'm not just talking about the individual words, that all four of them together. But anyway, you're quite right. It's sholosh, shell, sholosh, sholosh. Good one if you want to try and.
At the end, you must tell us the best palindrome you know. At the end.
Oh, there's some really, really beautiful palindromes in Tanakh too, and in the Torah. All over the place. Yes, perhaps we'll tell you why if you're keen. Sholibid, sholish, sholish, sholish. Make sure you pronounce very good for people. Make sure the teeth are in place for the elderly. Sholish, shell, sholish, sholish. There you go. Yeah. So what do you mean sholish, shell, sholish, sholish? Three shell, so it's three groups. And each group is made up of three notes. Sholosh, three notes, three groups. Yeah. Sholosh, shel, lamed gimel amud beis, the Mishnah. Sholosh, shel, sholosh, sholosh. Three groups. And each one has three in it, three notes. So 3 3 is 9. That's nice. Yeah. So in fact, we're talking about 9. No, that's it. It seems to be a long way, a lot less than we do ourselves. So a lot of work to do on that. So at the moment, the Mishnah is telling us what you really need is 3 groups, or if you like, getting into tennis mode, 3 sets, and there are 3 notes in each set. Yeah, sholish, shel, sholish. Have a look at Rashi, please. Seder Tekiyos, sholish, etc. Why 3? And we've had this in the earlier Gemaras. Remember, we spoke about Malchias, Zichronos, and Shofras. We even had sources from the Torah about this. Malchias, and that's based very much now. We have those 3 brachas in the Amida. We're talking about the long Amida in of Musaf. So we have. Good to see 1 or 2 people. Lamed Gimel Amud Beis on the Mishnah. So we've spoken about Malchias, Zichronos, and Shofras, the 3 parts of that long Amida. And together with it, Bamer, Bashofar, we've had psukim about this, psukim in the Torah, to teach us that there's Malchios. In other words, the point about the king, regal, if you like, the control coming, Malchias of Hashem, Zichronos, remembering, all activities are remembered. Zichronos, remembered, positive, negative, zichronos, and shofaros means bamer bashofar. And of course, perhaps we'll come back to that eventually. But of course, the shofar reminding us of so many things, whether we're going back to Har Sinai, where the word shofar is mentioned so many times, talking about Avram Avinu. There's lots of ramozim. Of course, a famous 10, but not for now, but eventually perhaps. So we've got Malchus, Zichronos, and Shofar. That's what Rashi mentions here. One, what does that mean, one? One set for Malchus. That's all you need for Malchus. You need a set for Zichronos and a set for Shofars. And what we've said in that, the next Rashi, it's sholosh shel sholosh shol. There are 3 sets, one set for each of those. Whether you're blowing it during the Amida, we'll see in a minute what happens if a person is not in shul. We'll see about that in a minute. But shel sholosh sholosh, each set is made up of 3 notes. And we'll need psukim for this. There's a tekiah, which we're defining as a straight note, a teruah, not quite sure what that is yet, the Gemara will have to tell us, and then a tekiah at the end, and again, they're going to be psukim to show that we have this sandwich. We've got a tekiah at the beginning, the end, and in the middle of the sandwich, you've got what's called a teruah, a broken note. So each set has tekiah, teruah, tekiah, the sandwich, and there are 3 sets. It sounds like you're going to have each set together with one for Malchios. So when you're davening, and in particular, Nusach Sfar do this in the Amida, even the silent Amida, we do Ashkenaz in Chazor, so the repetition, but it's coupled together with the bracha of Malchios. You will have a set. Just one set, that's all you need, really. Another set and another set. If a person's not in shul, we'll have to see about that. What happens if a person is in shul, but there's no shofar there? It sounds strange, but times gone by, there were plenty of occasions, sadly, in our history where a shofar was only available a little bit later on. Maybe people were in hiding or whatever. They davened and were waiting later on in the afternoon. Maybe they would get the shofar. What do they do then? Is it too late? We'll have to see that. But it's 3 sets, each one corresponding to Malchus, Zichronos, and Shofars, right? That's it. Shiur, again, let's have a look at the Mishnah said, here sholosh shel sholosh sholosh, 3 sets of 3 notes. 3 threes are 9 notes, or 9, yeah. Now, what does a note mean? I have to see what that means right now. Well, now, Rashi has told us we've got a tekiah, the beginning, a tekiah at the end. We'll take Rashi's word for it, the Mishnah. The Gemara will have to explain the source of that. Fine. And in the middle, you've got a teruah. Now, all we know is that tekiah is a straight note, it seems. Tekatim, just a blow on the shofar. Do we know how long it has to be? 5 seconds, 10 seconds, longer, shorter? Is there a minimum? Is there a maximum? Says the Mishnah, Shiur tekiah, the length of that tekiah, k'sholosh teruos, are like 3 teruos. Now, let's not worry too much what that is, but whatever it is, it's 3 teruos, and the shofar, the tekiah note, is as long as 3, he says here, 3 teruos. So whatever your middle part is, it sounds like the tekiah is 3 times as long as your 3 teruos. Okay, we'll hold on to that for a minute. Okay, what's a teruah though? It's very nice, we know the tekiah, that's the first one we're going to blow. It's going to be the same length of 3 teruahs. But what's a teruah? Says the Mishnah, Shiur teruah is k'sholosh yevavos. Some texts actually leave out the k. The Shiur of Druluk Rashi actually doesn't have it. Sholosh yevavos he's got without the k, without the like, because they are actually 3 yevavos. What's a yevava? It's the shortest possible note you can have. And I'm going to mention this is like early days. There's a development in the Gemara on this. Not just the Gemara. There's a machlokas Rashi Tosfos, which is absolutely crucial in halacha. At the moment, we are following Rashi, whose yortzeit was yesterday, by the way. Very good. Rashi's yortzeit, the 913th. No, 15th. 18th. 918th anniversary of Rashi's yortzeit. There you go. We're learning Rashi at the moment. So don't get worried. We don't seem to do this in shul. There's time. Look at this sholosh yevavos. Rashi says sholosh kolos ba'alma kol shehu. Couldn't be clearer than that. They are 3 notes as small as you can manage them, which means that's it. So the teruah in the middle of the sandwich is just sholosh kolos ba'alma, 3 sounds in the world, which means minimal. Kol shehu, the smallest you like. So that's all a teruah is, according to Rashi. Could just stop there, because that's the end of part 1 of this Mishnah. So what do we got? We know that the tekiah, though, is meant to be as long as 3 teruahs. What's a teruah? 3 of those is 9. The length of the tekiah, it sounds like, is therefore going to be the length of time it takes to have 9 notes, the middle of which is just 3. That's what it sounds like. And we're going to have 3 sets. Okay, that's all according to Rashi in the Mishnah. Part 2 of the Mishnah, Lamed Gimel Lamed Beis, the Mishnah. Okay, we've said now you're going to have 3 sets. The Mishnah, all the Mishnah said there are these 3 sets. They correspond to Malchus, Zichronos, and Shofros. Correspond. And if you haven't got them during the davening, they're corresponding to those 3. So what happens, therefore, if you're blowing them for someone corresponding to those 3, Malchus, Zichronos, and Shofros, and the person says, I'm going to do something very clever here. I know I've got a sandwich. Remember? Tekiah, teruah, we've defined as and a tekiah. Then I'm going to have another tekiah, teruah, tekiah. Can I, in my second tekiah, which is, again, tekiah, teruah, and another tekiah, then it's going to be followed by another tekiah. Says the Mishnah, what about making that second tekiah twice as long? And then will I get 2 points for that? Will it count as being the end of the first group and the beginning of the second group, because I made it twice as long? Good question. Says the Mishnah, part 2 of the Mishnah, Toka Barishoina, he blew the first tekiah. Have a look at Rashi. Toka Barishoina, he blew the one at the beginning, Rishoina. Peshuta, poshut means straight. Shelifnei hatrua, before the trua, toka kedarko. He blew in the normal way, based on this Mishnah. He blew the right length of the tekiah. Then he blew the trua. Continue the Mishnah. Toka b'shona umoshach b'shnio kishtayim. The second tekiah, which should have been the end of set 1, he said, I'm going to double up, and that will therefore also count as my first tekiah of set 2. Umoshach b'shnio kishtayim. Says the Mishnah, sorry. Ein biyodoi elo achas. Have a look at Rashi. Umoshach b'shnio, he lengthened out, drew out, b'shicha, drawing out, the b'shnio, the second one. What does it mean, the second one? Rashi explains this for us. Tekiah shel acha hatrua, the tekiah which followed the trua, moshach kishtayim, he lengthened it, the length of 2 tekiahs. Lot says for yedei shtayim, because we know the tekiah is meant to follow the trua and also come before the trua, and they're meant to be 3 sets. So he thought it'd save time and energy, and it's quite. I think the Bali tekiah will tell you starting and stopping is always tricky. So once he's onto a good thing, blowing a tekiah, and it's coming out very nicely, he will keep going twice as long, so it will count as 2. Okay, lots, and doing the Rashi, lots as for yedei shtayim, shoyu tzorech las zu, he needed to do this one. I've got the word acha in the back here. Acha zu pshuta shel achreho. He needed to do a straight tekiah after the trua, de malchus, which is set number 1, which corresponds to malchus, the malchus of Hashem. But he needs also to do a pshuta shelafoneho de zichronos. He needs also to blow, and again, we're talking about here a person blowing all of them at once. He's not blowing in the Amida, because then presumably you'd have a gap whilst you've got the bracha. No, this person's blowing them all at once, and that will need the next part of the Mishnah for this, but wait. So what is he doing? He's blowing 1 note, which is going to incorporate the end of Malchias, the beginning of Zechronos, and it's twice as long. Says the Rashi, Ein biyodo ela achas. It only counts as 1. Yep, it's a very long tekiah, but it's only 1 note. Why? Says Rashi, again in the Gemara, Du pesuke tekiah achas lishtayim lo mafsekinon. You cannot split and have an imaginary split in the middle of a note. What have you blown? You've blown 1 note twice as long. You have not blown 2 notes. You can't make a split in the middle of the note. So in other words, every note needs a beginning and an end. You can't have an imaginary end. You have an actual end. So you've only got a beginning and an end, a very long note in the middle, but only 1 note. Fine? So that's not something you could do. Otherwise, you could have reduced the number of blowing. You could have had tekiah, trua, tekiah, trua, tekiah, trua, tekiah. You could have got away with 7 notes instead of 9. You with me? You could have blown each time tekiah, which would have been an ending and a beginning, but you can't. So you're left with 9. But still only 9 notes. And remember, the trua, according to Rashi, is just 3 notes, as short as possible. Well, as short as you like. And you've got a tekiah at the beginning, tekiah at the end of each set. According to the Mishnah, it sounds like it's the Shiur of the Tekiah is like 3 Teruos. That's what we think.
That word, like, I mean, that depends on whether you have that kaf there, if it's Shiur
Yes, it
Teruah,
does.
Shalosh,
Yes,
or
yes.
Kesh Shalosh, because otherwise it would be a shorter, like it could be a short Tekiah, just three.
Yes,
a 3-second Tekiah.
of. Okay, let's have a look at this. Shiur. Which one are you going? Shiur Kesholosh Yevavos, you mean?
Yes, Kesh Shalosh to me would imply it's like 3. It's that length. Whereas if it is actually Shalosh Yevavos, that means it's 2, 3 separate. Is that not?
Yeah, Shiur Teruah Kesholosh Yevavos. Now, you're right. Rashi's just got the Shiur of a Teruah is 3 separate notes. We've got it's like separate notes. Whichever way whether you've got the chaf or not, and that's why it's better, or it would seem according to Rashi's text. But what it means is although it's a Teruah, it's called a Teruah. It's like the sound of 3 separate notes. The name Teruah, it's true, it is actually 3 separate notes. But with
the Tekiah, we say the Tekiah we say is Keshalosh Teruah. So there's no question the Tekiah is a long.
No, they're not right. There's no question the Teruah is 1 straight note. And if you're comparing it to Teruos, you can only be telling me the length of the notes. Here we're telling me the Shiur of the Teruah is, according to Rashi, 3 separate notes. Otherwise, how else would you learn? Shiur Teruah, again, they're obviously separate. What does it mean? 3. I've got 3 separate notes. If I'm going to make a straight note out of it, that will be a Tekiah. Okay, fair enough. The only difference would be the length of the Teruah, right? So if you had a K, and you had the beginning of the Mishnah, which is 3 times as long, so you'd have a Tekiah, which is the amount of time it takes for 9 notes. The Shiur of a Teruah is the amount of time it takes for 3 notes. And then what is that Teruah? So it's a shortened Tekiah. Okay, well, we'll follow that through. But according to Rashi, it's very clear it's 3 separate notes. Yeah.
I mean, I know that we have the Shvorim now, but each of the Shvorim is that we don't.
Yes, indeed. That's going to be very crucial in the Shiur Teruah. We'll see in the Brisa coming up.
Nobody calls that a Tekiah. They call it Shvorim, and it's a long note.
They call it Shvorim. Yes. So what you're saying here, the name of the Teruah, it would have been a shortened Tekiah. That's all. Yeah. Could be. Could be. That's going to be very important, and that could be the machlokas Rashi to look at Tosfos. Shiur Teruah Kesholosh Yevavos. It's like. So we'll see what Tosfos does with that. I don't know if we get today, but we'll see. But at the moment, you can see in Rashi's text, it is actually 3 separate notes. So that is a Teruah. Okay. Okay, on we go. So that's the end of the second part of the Mishnah. A long Tekiah, we found out you've got to begin beginning and end. Okay, this is very important. Of course, we've already actually preempted this. Mi sheberach. We're not talking about giving a mi sheberach, but it's mi sheberach. Someone who said the brachas. Mi sheberach, I was saying, even though it's not that. This is taken literally. Me, an individual. Sheberach, who had the really means davened and said the brachas. Have a look at Rashi. Mi sheberach. What do you mean? In which way was he mavorech? Says Rashi. He spalel tfilas musafin. There's your word of berach. Tisha brachas. So he did the long Amidah with all the 9 brachas, as we've learned in the early Mishnayos. Remember, 3 at the beginning, 3 at the end, and 3 in the middle. Only the Rosh Hashanah Musaf has that. Otherwise, on Rosh Chodesh Musaf, or any other Yom Tov Musaf, it's 7 brachas, 3 beginning, 3 at the end, and 1 in the middle. Rosh Hashanah Musaf is different. So this person has done all that. But sadly, they didn't have it, or whatever the reason was, they didn't have a shofar. He might have been davening at home, might have been davening, they couldn't get a shofar, couldn't get a baltukea, we don't know. But nismane loy shofar. After that, nismane like a losh minyan, they counted, or they got hold of a baltukea after davening. What's he meant to do now? Is it too late? And what should he blow? Says the Mishnah, no. Those words that we learned at the beginning when we said there are 3 sets. There are 3 sets. Yes, we do try and put it together with the Amida, particularly in the repetition of the Amida. But in fact, because they correspond to those 3 Malchias, Achronis, and Shofris, you could do them all together. And that, of course, is important why we're talking about splitting, because you are doing them all together. Look at this, please. So what he can do, she, Tokea umeria betokea, a tekia, the middle of the sandwich, the terua, which we thought is just 3 notes, and then another tekia. Do those sholosh pa'omim. Don't worry about having them separately, each set together with another bracha. This person's already davened. And that's exactly what we do if a person's blowing in hospitals or any other places where people haven't heard. What you do is you would blow it all in one go, and that is not a problem. Each one, and we're talking here 3 sets. Forget what we do, because we'll have to develop that in the Gemara. So strictly speaking, it's 3 sets, tekiah, teruah, tekiah, 3 sets. You can do them all in one go. Sholosh, look at Rashi. Umeria b'tokea sholosh, tokea umeria b'tokea sholosh pa'omim, tokea umeria b'tokea bishvil malchus, v'chein bishvil zichronos, v'chein bishvil shofros. This person has already davened. Doesn't matter. You're still doing each set to correspond with the malchus, zichronos, and shofros. So yes, we do try and put it with the Amida, but this person couldn't for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. Put them all together. And of course, knowing that, interesting, you could have said this really should have come before the previous piece. Once you know that, then you have the part 2, which was what happens if you did a tekiah twice as long. Of course, if you're blowing each set with the particular respective bracha, you're not going to have 2 sets next to each other. You with me? Anyway, the bottom line is you can do them all together, but beware, do not have one tekiah twice as long and get a double count. No double counting allowed. Okay, that's the 3rd part of the Mishnah. And then we have the last part of the Mishnah, part 4. This is now the very last halacha of the Mishnayos of Rosh Hashanah. No more after this. And it's talking about the Baal Tefillah, the Chazan. Kishem sheshliach tzibor chayev, just like the shliach tzibor chayev is davening and he's preparing when he's doing a quiet Amida, kach kol yochid v'yochid chayev. So every individual is obliged to daven for himself. The Gemara will then ask, what do you need a shliach tzibor for? If everybody's davening for themselves, it seems a bit of a waste. The Gemara will deal with that, and certainly for the people who can't. It sounds like at the moment we're talking here about those people that can, should. Those people that can't, don't need to, and maybe the Chazan will be motivated to them. But it does sound like from the Mishnah, the Tanakama, those people that can daven, should daven, and the Shliach Tzibur is there, jumping a bit, but the Gemara will tell us those people who can't, he will be motzi them, as long as they listen to what he says, and how he's davened. But those people that can should daven for themselves. That is the view of the Tanakama. On that, there's a machlokes. Says the Mishnah, Rabban Gamliel disagrees. And he says, no. Once you've got a shliach tzibur, paying him good money, or maybe not, doesn't matter, hopefully doing it gratis, but whatever, you've got a Baal Tefillah, a shliach tzibur moitzi es horabim yedei chovason. Nobody needs to daven according to Rabban Gamliel, because the Baal Tefillah will be moitzi them. And another point we need to think about, as this is, it's not in brachos, notice, this is a mission at the end of Rosh Hashanah. Is it particularly talking about Rosh Hashanah? Is it talking about a normal chakris on a Wednesday morning? Is it talking, we don't know. That's the Gemara we'll have to talk about. It might be the Rabban Gamliel is only saying this because, as we know, the long Musaf is long, and therefore that's what Rabban Gamliel is talking about. But he's not talking about a normal davening during the week, although, 18, 19 brachas, but nevertheless, maybe he would agree with the Tanakama. All that needs to be understood. So those are the 4 parts of the Mishnah.
Well,
Okay.
The Tanakama, it says, Kashem sheshliach tzibur chayev. Where's that Havamina from, that a shliach tzibur is chayev?
Quite right. Yes, indeed. It sounds like he's chayav to prepare himself beforehand. So people need to prepare themselves. You're right. Yeah, tricky. We'll have to follow that through. Quite right. But we'll have to wait a little bit, I'm afraid. Kashem is on Lamed Daled Omid base, which I haven't even sent round yet. So yeah, we'll have to hold tight on that. You can think about it in Switzerland. Okay, on we go. Now, what did we learn? We learned, going back to, we're following the first piece of the Mishnah. The first piece of the Mishnah, which spoke about the length of a tekiah, and it said the length of the tekiah is like 3 teruos, right? And then we said the length of a trua, according to Rashi, was 3 separate notes. Sounded very much like the length of a tekiah, therefore, is the length, the time it takes to blow 9 notes. Easy enough. Says the Gemara, I'm afraid we've got a brisa. And we don't like machlokes if we can weld them. I know people maybe disagree with that, but we prefer not to have a machlokus. But Tanya, we've got a brisa. In fact, this brisa will be brought later on this page and go on to the next page too. Shiur tekiah kitrua. Oh dear. The length of a tekiah is the length of the teruah, which are therefore, according to Rashi, would just be the time it takes to blow 3 separate notes. We're in Rashi at the moment. Omer Abaya. Abaya's trying to make a bit of peace here. Tono didon kochoshov tekiah dekulu bovi. Maybe our Mishnah, our Tana, when he said tekiah, he didn't mean, I know he said 1 tekiah, but what he meant was the tekiah of a whole set. Yeah. Tana didon kochoshiv tekiah dekulu bovi, utruos dekulu bovi, and each set of the teruos. But Tana Bara, the Tana of the Baraisa, Kochoshov Chad, is only looking at each set. So our Mishnah is talking about all the sets, and the Baraisa is talking about 1 set. How does that work? Let's have a look at Rashi, please. Tana Didon Kochoshov the Kulu. What does it say? The Shiur of a tekiah is like 3 teruos. What it means, says Rashi, Ochikoma. Shiur. Sholosh tekios, the length of each one of the 3 tekios is like the length of each one of the 3 teruos. A bit pushed, as you say, a bit dochuk. But to make peace, we're happy to go the extra mile. What we're saying, therefore, the Mishnah means that it means the length of each. And when it says Shiur Tekiyah Sholosh Teruos, it means out of all those three, they're all the same. That's really what the Mishnah is telling us. The length of each one of the three teruos, a tekiyah, is like the length of each one of those three teruos. But it's not multiplying by three. Do you see, or have I confused you? I know the Mishnah sounds like it's not like that, but what it means is the shiur of the tekiyah, the shiur of each one of the tekiyos is like the length of each one of the three teruos. That's what we're saying at the moment. In which case, we're now dropping down.
It would be far more simpler just to say a tekiyah is like a one teruah, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah, very good point. Your question is raised by some of the Meforshim, and the answer they give to that at this moment is because if you just said the length of a tekiyah is like a teruah, you might have, don't forget, there's a tekiyah at the beginning and a tekiyah at the end. I might have thought the length of the tekiyah in one set is like the length of a teruah, and therefore each tekiyah is half a teruah.
Yeah.
I might have thought that. So good question raised by the Rashash at the back and others. He said, and that's the answer he gives. Yeah, so that's the Rashash that I've got at the back, and you've got two, but you can look it up. But that's exactly. I'll read the words without bothering anybody. He asked your question. L'chura yikshe. Actually, should we go for it? Go on, Peter. Far too. Got to pull in, Peter. Let's have a look at our Gemara, please. And then if we press on, can you do that? If you go to Safaria, get Rosh Hashanah 33b. As the Lord has asked the question of the Rashash, let's drop down to, let's have a look at when it says Rashi. 1 minute, hold on. No, sorry, I'm going to keep going. Aim biyodo ela achas. Is it on that one? No. So on the Gemara, go drop a little bit more. Gemara. First, that's all we need. A double click on the Hebrew. Go to commentaries. Let's have a look at Rashash. No, not Rashi. Rashash. Oh, I hope we've got it. Rashash, there we go. Now, before you go, 19th century, go back again. Might as well see who he is. 19th century annotation, the class of that. Instruction in his, actually, it seems like he was giving Shurim on the subject. Let's have a look at the Rashash. A double click or one click. There we are. L'chura yikshe, he asks, in the name of Laurie. Im ke madua ka'oma tekiyah b'loshen yochid. A much easier way to, if the three are like the three, either say the three tekiyahs are like the three teruos, or, as Laurie said, just say one's like the other, like we got in the Brisa. V'ulai, perhaps, b'chdei shelo niteh, so that we shouldn't make a mistake. The rotzoloima, what the Brisa, what the Mishnah meant, kulhu sheish tekiyahs, all six. Leave out the Rambam actually does learn like that. We'll leave that out. Lochein oma tekiyah b'loshen yochid, lahoros lo biberak tekiyah achas, the whole bobo. So he's only talking about one out of the two, rather than saying, you see, you'd expect, as you said, to be consistent. Either say the three tekiyahs are like the three teruahs, or say each tekiyah is like the teruah. But again, you could have made a mistake. So let's go back to our faces. Thank you very much. So, yeah, that's what we think at the moment. We haven't got to the end of this yet.
No, why do you talk about the three tekiyos? I mean, there's a tekiya at the beginning and end of each set. I mean, it's,
That's right.
so it's 6. Okay.
No, each tekiah is like the length of each one of the 3 teruos. It's not half.
Each tekiah. Okay.
Each tekiah. So we've now backed down to what we said before, and we're now making the consistency between the Mishnah and the Brisa. Each tekiah is like a teruah, and we know the Mishnah, a teruah is 3 separate notes. So therefore, the length of a tekiah is the length, I suppose, the time it takes to blow 3 separate notes.
But you've always been speaking about 3 tekiyahs.
Pardon?
You've been speaking about 3 tekiyahs.
No, the Mishnah says Shiur tekiah.
I don't have the page in front of me, sorry.
I'm sorry? In the Rashi, you mean?
Yeah, I don't have the page in front of me.
Yeah.
You keep on saying Shadosh tekiyah.
Yeah, so Shiur tekiah k'sholosh teruos means each one of the tekiyos is like the length of each one of the 3 teruos. It's 1 for 1. It's therefore the same as the Brisa, and no argument between the Brisa and the Mishnah. So we've changed to what we thought originally. However, says the Gemara, Shiur teruah k'gimel yavavos. The length of a teruah is like 3 yavavos. Now we translated that according to Rashi, 3 separate notes. That's a yavava. So each yavava is the smallest possible note you can imagine. Right? Says that same Brisa continues. V'hotanya Shiur teruah k'shloisha shavorim. It's like the length of 3. A teruah is like 3 shavorim. That's a different word. They're not like synonyms. Broken notes. Yavava sounds like Rashi defined it, the smallest possible note. And now we've got 3 shavorim, broken notes. Ooh, says Rashi. Actually, we look at the previous Rashi. Tona barabat kochoshiv dechodabava Shiur hatikiyah. This is previously is like the length of a trua, but travayu choda milsa omre. Until now, we thought the Mishnah and the Brisa are consistent. The length of a tekiyah is the same as the length as the middle teruah. The sandwich has the middle part of the sandwich the same as either side. But we learned in the Mishnah that teruah was 3 separate notes. Here we've suddenly got a different word being used, 3 shavorim. Says Rashi, shavorim aruchim yavavos. It must be longer than yavavos because yavava is the smallest possible note you can have. And it's a different word. Oh dear. This is going to be impossible to bring together. Omer Abaya. Abaya puts his hands up and says, Bahor Vadai Pliki. You're quite right. There's a machlokus about that. The first part I could answer, but this second part I can't. This Brisa says it's 3 shavorim. Have a look at Rashi. Omer Abai Bahor Vadai Pligi. Alfagav, even though the Ukimna I managed to establish. The Bereisha Lo Pligi, the first part of the Mishnah and the first part of the Brisa, they are consistent. Tricky, but I managed to do it. Al Koch, certainly, Al Koch means against your will. Certainly, Bahor Sefer Pligi. There must be an argument now between the Mishnah and the Brisa. The leslishi nuye bob midi. There's no way I can answer this back against the ropes, is it? Midi behind plugta. And this is now the Gemara suggesting what the machlokas is between them both. We got the Mishnah and the Brisa. The Mishnah is talking about Yavavos being the middle part of the sandwich. The Brisa calls them Shavarim. Must be longer than Yavavos because Yavavos is separate notes. How can there be an argument? This is the crucial piece of the whole of the Tkiyos, actually. Says the Gemara, Bahobadai Pligi, beginning of line is Pligi. Dichsiv, because the Pasuk says, Yom Teruah Yiyeh Lochem. People may be familiar with that Pasuk. Now, can I trouble you, Peter? This Pasuk is in Bamidbar Choftes Aleph. So let's have a look at that Pasuk, and then we'll move to the Targum. You see, Yom Teruah Yiyeh, a day of, I'm not quite sure what quite the word Teruah means. Don't forget the word Teruah could be linked to the word friendship, Reus. What's that? Are we into Sepharia? Of interesting things there?
We're into Sepharia, yes. Can you see that?
I can't know. I've got your
folders.
1 second, please.
That's quite all right.
Can you see that?
Right. Now we can. Yes, thank you. Bamidbar 29:1. Numbers 29:1. 29:1. Let's have a look at some Hebrew as well. If you put yep. There you go. Yes. Right. Uvachodesh Hashvi, 7th month, Be'echol HaChodesh, first day. Mikra Kodesh. Yelochem. They're actually a holy calling, isn't it, really? No work. Yom Teruah Yelochem. It should be a day of, now forget about the English, you've got the horn is sounded. We've just got that word Yom Teruah. Now, even if it does mean a Teruah sound, what does that mean? Now, if you can go to search and put in the word Targum, Targum, go to the, with the four, hold on. Yeah, that's good, excellent. Come down to Onkelos, primary Targum on the, except in the, Red Public considered it was then. Right, now press Torah and press that same posuk. We're now going to have the Targum on 29:1. Will be Yarcho should be or the 7th month. Ma'ora Kaddish. It's really a holy calling. People coming together. Koli vidas polchan, no work. Lo sabdun. Yom Yabovo, a day of Yabovo. That's the way the Targum translates this. The trouble is, what does Yabovo mean? Now, have a look back to our Gemara. Yom Teruah, the Targum translates it as Yom Yabovo. We're now with a search engine. We're going to go to Shof Judges. So if you can go now to texts, no, go to texts and go to Tanakh and go to Judges chapter 5. Pasuk 28. This is the battle with Sisera. Remember the whole story of Sisera and Yoel? 28. Ba'ad hachalon nishkava batiyabev aim Sisra. Sisra's mother's peering through the window. Ba'ad hachalon batiyabev aim Sisra. Where is her son? Madua boishesh richboy lovai. Why is his chariot so long in coming? Madua echeru pame makavoisol. That's what she says. But we got this word vatiyabev. She is, well, I've got the word wind here with an H, of course. Vatiya, what does it mean, vatiyabev? Now, if you can go back to our Gemara, please. Can we go back to faces on our Gemara? So we've got Yom Teruah, translated Yom Yabova. Yabova, we're comparing where we find this word, Batiyabev, going back to the Hebrew. So we've got Batiyabev. She was moaning, crying, where is my son, Sisra? Never been beaten in battle before. Where is he? And she is Batiyabev crying. So we're learning Trua, it's a crying. How was she crying? What does it mean, crying? Says the Gemara. Have you got it? Where it says Sisra in the Gemara. Ma sova, ma sova genuche gonach. Uma sova yulule yolil. This translation of crying, there are two types of crying. Have a look at Rashi. Omar Abai, we saw that Rashi. Dumatar gaminon. Trua is Yabovo. Right? You got the Rashi? Uba'eme de Sisra was, I say, a bit of a search across Tanakh. We find the same word used, Kasif Namihai Lishna Batiyabev. And that word Batiyabev is being used for Rosh Hashanah, Yom Teruah. Right. Back, keep your finger on the place in the Rashi. Look at the Gemara. Ma sova genuche gonach. One, we've got the Mishnah and the Brisa. The Brisa holds genuche gonach. It's more of a moan. She's moaning. Oh dear, where is my son? Uma sova. This crying is a real crying. Yolule yolil. She's boicha. Have a look at Rashi. Man do'oma shavorim sova genuche gonach. Ka'odom, like a person hagoneach milibai, moaning from his heart. Kederech hacholim, like perhaps ill people. Shema'arichin bignichu sehen. It's moaning. Oh, oh. That's the sound of the Yom Teruah, the Teruah, which is the middle part of the note. And we'll find later on this word Teruah in the middle of the sandwich. So the Teruah in the middle of the sandwich is being learnt by the Brisa as being a moaning note. A longer note. Whereas the Mishnah holds it's Yolule Yolil. Have a look at Rashi. Ka'odom. Last Rashi of the page, a person crying and wailing, wailing, kolos katsorim, shorter notes, semuchim ze lozer, closer to each other. That also comes in the next page as well. So what does that mean, a cry note? Ha 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 ha, that type of cry. Separate notes. So we've got here a machlokas between the Mishnah and the Brisa as to whether that middle part, is it shorter notes? It's true, it's only 3, according to Rashi. Or is it very clearly from the Brisa, 3 shavarim, 3 longer notes? So 3 yavavos or 3 shavarim. We call them a teruah, the middle part, but those are the two sides, the Mishnah and the Brisa. Okay? So, how long will the tekiah have to be? We now do have a slight difference in the length of the tekiah. Why? Because we learned that the tekiah is the same length as the middle part of the sandwich. And we said there's no argument between the Mishnah and the Brisa, but there is going to be an argument in absolute terms. Why? Because according to the Mishnah, a teruah is da-da-da, therefore the tekiah will be that length. Sounds like it's a minimum. Yeah? According to the Brisa, the teruah, what we call the teruah, is really a shvarim, which means it's the longer note. In which case the tekiah, which will have to match the middle part of the sandwich, will have to be slightly longer. True, they are still matching. The tekiah matches the teruah in the middle, but in absolute terms, it now becomes longer because it's got to be the same length as the teruah in the middle. Are you with me? So we've got two views here at the moment. Okay, just what about the length? It never mentioned, it sounds like this is minimum, and you can lengthen out the tekiah. What about the shvarim? Have a look at Tosfos. We'll just pick this up. Third narrow line of Tosfos. The tzorich lizoeh bishvarim. Woo. Watch out. Now, again, how long is the length of a tekiah according to the Mishnah? The time it takes to do 3 notes. That's it. According to the shavarim in the Brisa, they're longer notes. Right? How long? How long should each sheva be? That's never been discussed. You with me? We know it's a longer note, but how long should it be? Says the third narrow line of Tosfos, watch out. Those shavarim shelo yehi marich kol echad bifnei atzma kegimel yavavos. Don't make it the length of 3 yavavos. Why? Shel shlosha kolos kol shehu, according to Rashi, de'im kain nase tekiah. It's going to be converted into a tekiah of the teruah group. You with me? What we're trying to do, we're trying to capture both views here. So we're going to do both. The tekiah, in fact, there's going to be another one, a shvarim and a teruah, but leave that for tonight. We've got the Brisa and the Mishnah. According to the Mishnah, the tekiah is very short. It's only the length of 3 notes. That would count as a tekiah according to the Mishnah. That is called a tekiah, right? When you're blowing shavarim, and each one of your shavarim, remember it's a longer note than just it's got to be slightly longer. But if you made it the length of 3 notes, you'd have the tekiah of the Mishnah. That's called a tekiah. You with me? So therefore, says Tosfos, watch out. Don't make your shavarim the length of 3 notes, which means now what you've got is 2 or more than 1. You can imagine it, a tekiah greater than the length of 1, less than the length of 3, because if you made each one of your shavarim the length of 3, then you would now call it a tekiah in the other camp. Are you with me, or have I lost you a little bit there? No? So what we're saying, therefore, is, yes, we are going to do both of these. However, watch out when you blow the shvarim, because if you make it too long, so in other words, in your, I suppose your mathematical sign, what you'll have is your shvarim, I say less than 3 and greater than 1. Yeah, it's got to be greater than 1, because otherwise that's the other view, and it's called a sheva. It's not called the yavava. But don't make it 3 or more, because then it will be called a tekiah. So all Tosfos says is watch out according to Rashi. And I leave you with this question. I think we've raised this once before. We've got a machlokas in the Mishnah and the Brisa, what the middle of the shofar, the teruah, is like. The question is the following, gentlemen. Why don't you ask, every person should ask, what did their father do? What did their father do? What did their father do? How can you have a machlokas as to what the middle of, it sounded like, what did people do? Okay, so we got a little boy, ask his father, ask his grandfather. What did his grandfather do? How can you have an argument as to what? Well, you don't find, we'll see. This is the time of the Gemara. I'm not talking about going back to the time of Rishonim, going back, let's say, the Machlokas Rashi and Rabbeinu Tam, and yeah, fine, that's Rishon, that's tricky enough. We're going back here to the time of the Mishnah. And at the time of the Mishnah and the Brisa, we're already saying they don't know what the sound of the shofar. Now, it's not as if it's shofars every 50 years. This is every year they're blowing the shofar. What did they blow the previous year? There must be a shul that can go back. And in fact, the question really means, what did Moshe Rabbeinu blow? Which one of these two? How can you have a machlokas about something as basic as this that happens every year? Every shul is blowing the shofar. What did they blow? Was it the long, the brisa, or was it the Mishnah? Well, gentlemen, we're not answering that tonight. But that is the question we're ultimately going to have to try and answer in due course. Now, where we're up to at the moment is today, Wednesday. At the moment in the calendar, it looks like next week is Tisha B'Av. If it's cancelled, I'm quite happy to give a shiur. We'll wait to, we look forward to that announcement. But unless it's cancelled, Tisha B'Av, so there won't be a shiur next week. The following week, I'm actually, all being well, traveling back to England on that Wednesday to spend time with the kids in England. Then we're going to be away out somewhere. So it does mean there's going to have to be a bit of a break now, I'm afraid, until I get back, because I'm traveling back on the Wednesday. No, I'm not. We're traveling on Thursday, but I'm not sure I'm going to have a reception where I'm going to be. If I find out I am, I'll let you know, Peter. But it looks like next week +3. So let's have a look at a calendar.
It's called Ben Hasmanim. It's called Ben Hasmanim.
Okay, fair enough. Oh, good. Thank you. Good time for revision, is it?
Yachi Kalam.
If I have a bit of reception where I'm going to be, I'm ringing. So let's have a look here. We are at the moment. Let's have a look. I think the next year will have to be, all being well, not next week. Then the following week we go. Following week with him. Following week coming back. So I think we are talking about the 23rd of August. Now, people may be away then. Are people going to be away on the 23rd of August? Yes?
I'll be here.
You'll be here. People will be here from 23rd of August, or will people be able to link in on the 23rd of August from wherever they'll be? or not.
I'll be away.
You'll be away.
Yeah.
Shall we make a bigger gap than 4 weeks?
No.
No, I can't wait that long to hear the answer. I've
We
been
can't-
wondering
we
about
can't
this
wait.
show for how come people didn't remember from last year and they
Yes,
couldn't ask.
exactly. From year to year.
Can't- Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so let's put it down as it's still a couple of weeks before Rosh Hashanah, actually quite a few weeks before Rosh Hashanah. It's only the 23rd, because there's going to be a bank holiday coming up, but that's a bank holiday, fine. But is that all right, 23rd? Should we say 23rd of August?
Yeah.
We'll go for 23rd of August, wherever people are, if they've got reception, come in from Switzerland or wherever you'll be.
You have reception where you're going?
I'm sorry?
You say you may have reception where you're going?
Yeah, in which case I'd possibly give on that 16th. I could give on that, possibly on that 16th. Let me find out a little bit. Provisionally, put it down. Are people around on the 16th?
No.
Online.
No, also. Okay, let's put down the 23rd. Otherwise, we really are moving too far away. 23rd, if we turns out we can do a little bit earlier, perhaps I'll be in contact with you. Peter, you'll be around?
I'm not here on the 16th, but I will be on the 23rd.
Okay, fair enough. So let's put it down as the 23rd, and let's see how we go. I think it'll actually stick with the 23rd. If not, then I'll perhaps contact Simon and see if we can do something. But probably not, actually. So is that all right? So, yeah, Ben Osmanim, you're quite right, Mervyn. And meanwhile, wish everybody a meaningful, uplifting. We talk about, it's really what we're missing. That's the point when we're talking about coming to Tisha B'Av. It's what we're missing. And there's got to be a yearning that we can get out of this situation. And let's get back to the shalom amongst the whole of Klal Yisrael, and let's not get political or anything else. Now let's worry about ourselves. We've got to try and do what we can to enhance the shalom, any area that we can. As we know, the main area was sinas chinam. We've got to do what we can, and say it's always nice to point fingers and what's going on elsewhere. Fine, yes. Valid points, but let's worry about it ourselves in our own circles that we can try and increase. And also this yearning, we talk about the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash was there for so many reasons, but in particular, everything that was going on in the Beis HaMikdash. Besides that one Bezdin, can you imagine one Bezdin then and everything flowing from that? Can you imagine what led from that Beis HaMikdash was the korbanos being brought, which had an amazing effect on people generally. Can you imagine being out of illness, out of difficulties financially, and enabling us to be able to fulfill our full potential? Those are the things we're yearning for when we're talking about the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. It's all of that. So if we can focus on that a little bit, that's what we're praying for. We're praying for things to move onwards and upwards, enabling us all to do what we can. But at the same time, as I say, being everybody, there should be shalom, and any way we can to try and enhance that in our own circles. As I say, there should be, rather than sinas chinam, avos chinam is always a wonderful thing, and hopefully we can be looking forward to the Binyan Beis HaMikdash and what comes with that, a wonderful time for one and all, Mi'ez Hashem, and we should look forwards, and without tefillas, let's hope that we can move onwards and upwards. So with that, gentlemen, I wish you well, and all being well, we should all be well. On that 23rd of August, we'll be back.
Thank you, Norman.